All right. So, John, what's up, man? Cabaret, live cabaret. That's the thing I wanted to start with. I'm so proud of my friend John McWhorter, the musician, as well as the professor. Tell us about it, John.
Well, I have this kind of third line of activity where I have put together a lot of cabaret shows over about the past 15 years, usually obscure musical theater that is nevertheless good. And I've done that in various venues, and this one was a big one because I've been reconstructing as much of the material as I could of a hit white musical that Fats Waller wrote at the end of his life. So not a Harlem review called Hot Chocolates or something like that, but it's just a mainstream show, and he had a hit, and it toured, but he died. And so the material just mostly disappeared. And it turns out not only was it a hit, but it's good stuff. And so I've spent the past basically 15 years trying to find every scrap of it. And I presented pretty much every scrap the other night with a company I've assembled of friends and also family, as in my 13-year-old, who turns out to be a great instinctive cabaret singer. And
John, that beautiful young woman whom we saw depicted, that's your daughter?
That was Dolly, who is now 13. There are blogging heads where she has kind of crept along in the background at 3 and 4. That is what she looks like now. And she's singing a song and looking about like that and just knows what she's doing. It's as if she's been doing it for 40 years. It was amazing. So she had one song, and then the other people had more. But I dare say it went well. And it was now 3 days ago. I'm still exhausted because the amount of energy it can take if you are, I'm a diligent amateur. But that means that I have to work harder at it than a real pro would. And each singer has different needs. Every song's key has to be set. People want new keys. Everybody has a different personality. So it's work. And so I'm still coming down off of it. But we had, 130 people in there. And I dare say that we did our job. And I hoped, and so I talked in between the numbers and stuff. So I sang, played piano, and talked. And also I had to write the lyrics to one song that didn't have words, and I had to write the music for a song where only the lyric existed. So I worked for this one. And now here I am, and this is my second job. First one is linguist, and then second job is media, and then third job is cabaret guy.
I have some questions.
Okay.
Where was the performance performed?
This was at the Triad Theater, and which is on the Upper West Side.
130 people. How did you recruit the audience?
To be honest, as soon as I mentioned it in the Times, it sold out in like a half hour. And so a lot of it was that. But I probably knew most of the people. It was a lot of people from my now almost 25 years of New York life. People were gratifyingly curious to come see it. But then we sold out again. We're going to do it again on December 5th. And that is now sold out too. And so we'll see what the future of the show will be. But
how big is the cast?
It is 5 grown women, and then one woman who is not grown, and then me. So yeah,
I saw you at the piano. Were you also vocalizing?
I did do some vocalizing. I sang 2 numbers, and I duetted on another one. Most of the show, the two songs that are completely irrecoverable in performing form were the guys' songs. And so most of what survives is designed to be sung by women. But there was one in particular that was a guy's song, and it really only would make sense if a guy sang it, and I was the only guy there. So yeah, I did do some of that. My singing in this, I would have to say, is, cabaret / character singing. So I didn't do any soulful ballads or anything like that. I was doing a cabaret kind of job. But, I can do that. I can fake that when I have to. And people seem to enjoy it. And then there was one other song that it's basically 4 practically hookers singing, telling a man to go away. And I didn't really have that one prepared until the last minute. And my Dolly is too young to sing it at 13. And I didn't want to saddle the other women with it. So I did that one in quotation marks. It made no sense for me to do it. But that probably made the song better. So that was another one that I did. So
you're recovering. This effort from Waller would have been lost to history, but for you.
Not precisely, because there was a guy who did a small production of the actual show about 15 years ago here in the city. But to be honest, only so many people could see that. And it was before almost anything exists online. And so he did that, and he did a lot of the initial spade work. But I just thought, I'm going to do more. And no, nobody would be carrying this on if it weren't for me, because I'm interested in, one, jazz, and two, musical theater. And this thing sits right on the edge of that. Most musicals people haven't cared about this because it wasn't a historical show. It didn't push the form forward. It was just one passing thing. And what they want to talk about is Rodgers and Hammerstein. Most jazz people don't know about this, partly because there's just so little evidence of it. And they're not interested in theater. They're interested in jazz. So they're interested in the rest of his work. I'm the weirdo who's kind of straddling those two things. So, yeah, in a way, nobody else would probably have gotten onto this. And so here we are. And also it helps that since I have kind of a pulpit, like one of the songs only was found because I wrote about this in the Times once and somebody happened to be digging in a certain collection. That helps too. So yeah, it's all just kind of coming around.
Wow, you say it's a white offering from Fats.
Yeah.
You want to break that down? What's the white, black, Negro categorization you got going there?
Well, what I mean is, if I say there was a Fats Waller musical, the natural thing to think, if you know anything about him and you know that he's an early 20th century black jazz artist, is you think something about the Cotton Club. And he did do things of that kind, with, light-skinned chorus girls dancing around and singing songs like Ain't Misbehavin' Uptown. That is what he at first did. But by 1943, he was mainstream important enough that he was hired to write the music for an ordinary, frankly, rather stupid in itself, show about white people and, a whorehouse and hijinks and dancing. And there's a story. There are a couple of love stories in it, but it was just an ordinary mainstream show. Now, because he was himself, there is one subsidiary couple who come out once and sing a hot little song and do some dancing. They are black. And the woman was actually a well-known black tap dancer named Jenny Lagan. And the other guy was a guy named Bob Howard, who was very much a kind of a Fats Waller stand-in. Fats Waller was supposed to originally be in it and write the music. But to be honest, I'm just going to be blunt, Waller had a major drinking problem. And it soon became clear that there's no way he was going to be able to do 8 shows a week. So they basically got somebody to play him. But those people were subsidiary. It was just a show. And that was the first time that a black composer had written a white book musical. There'd been one trivial example way back where it wasn't a story, it was just a review. But this was the first time. Then Duke Ellington did it again a couple of times after Waller died. But this is weird in 1943 that a black man writes the music for just a Mr. and Mrs. America show. And then, frankly, I'm biased, but his work was better than the work of a lot of the guys who were regularly writing white musicals at the time, especially the kind of B-level ones. Waller had a facility with a tune that a lot of the guys working for Broadway then would have paid to have, or suffered the loss of a finger to have. Waller was good, and if he had lived, he would have done more shows, and we would have actual cast albums of Fats Waller musicals, and they would be good. It's one of those things where you just wish he had lasted longer. But this one, got to get it. And since here's a pulpit, just going to throw this out here. I don't know how many people in our audience will care, but there are now 3 songs where really it would be nice to have some sort of evidence. I have put together The Girl Who Doesn't Ripple When She Bends out of various scraps. But the actual song,
Ripple when she bends. Lord have mercy.
It's a very winky kind of lubricious show, but I need something official for that. I don't think it exists. But then there are 2 numbers where it's really a problem. Me and My Old World Charm, and that's for a man. There's no real evidence of that one. And then there's one called Supple Couple, which was a trio. And it would be really great to know if anybody out there happens to have had like a great uncle or something who was in the chorus of Early to Bed. Go into the trunk that person left behind and see if just maybe there is a full score of Early to Bed. So got to put it out there.
It's out there. Now, when I asked you what you want to talk about today, you said incivility. You want to break that down?
I do. We hear today that Nick Fuentes, for example, and his open, I think frankly, partly recreational, but open anti-Semitism and sexism and racism, that how readily somebody like him is allowed to express those views today and is taken up by someone like Tucker Carlson, that this is a problem, that there's something wrong with this lack of civility in the culture, that people are allowed to say things. And there's a part of me that thinks, no, this idea that we are advancing by teaching people not to say unpleasant things that they think, that's better than them saying it. I'm not sure I'm on board with that. And I'm not just doing that to be recreational myself, but there's always been a kind of person who said, as far as the N-word, I'd rather they said it. I want to know, what they think. I think that of a lot of these things. And I think that we need to understand that John Stuart Mill had a point when he said that views that we think of as settled really ought to be re-aired so that we're sure of what the arguments against them are. And I think a lot of people, and this is me, broken record, a lot of people agree with that, but they think, but not when it comes to race and power. But no, yes, when it comes to race and power as well. And I'm thinking maybe we need to get used to how scabrous our public media culture has become.
Excuse me. Let's give the audience an insight into exactly how scabrous you're talking about. We've got a couple of clips of Nick Fuentes holding forth. Nikita,
Okay.
You want to air them for us?
Want to be raped.
B1, B2,
when
and
I say
B3.
raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
That was B1,
number
B2.
one, but number two, who cares? Who cares? Enough with the Jim Crow stuff. Who cares? Oh, they had to drink out of a different water fountain. Big fucking deal. Oh no, they had to go to a different school. Their water fountain in that famous picture was worse. Who cares? Grow up. Drink out of the fucking water fountain. It's water. It's the same. And even if it was bad, who cares? Who cares? It's better. It's better in general. We all agree it was better for them. It's better for us. Better in general.
People see this and they go, man, why are you always talking about black people, this and that? Because there just needs to be some shame here. Well, there's a few reasons. First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
Okay, women want to be raped. Who cares about Jim Crow? And oh, by the way, being racist against black people is quite okay.
And I'm not nodding in agreement with any of these things, but that is exactly what I mean. That is exactly what I was referring to. And my question is it really in advance to watch him and say, he may think that, but he shouldn't say it? And of course, the next answer is when he says it, he encourages other people who are thinking it but not saying it to say it too, especially on social media these days.
And advance over what, John? What's the alternative?
I think the idea is that we are supposedly moving ahead in teaching people not to say certain things, because it's backwards if somebody can say something like that just out in the open.
But teaching people not to say, I mean, may that not be the very underlying force here? They resent being taught what not to say and hence react against the pressures to not say.
Like, for example, what you don't hear much about with Fuentes much is when you look at him, you can see he's having kind of a good time. He's pushing buttons on purpose. And that's partly because, yes, people are irritated to be told they can't say things. And, some people would say, well, they shouldn't be. And my answer to that is yes, but they are. And they always will be. And so, yeah, that's the thing. Our job is there are two things. We could rebut him. And many people would say, I shouldn't have to which my answer is, yeah, but you do. Or stop jumping so high whenever somebody like him says stuff like that, and they'll stop finding it fun. But I think that's a quixotic ask. And so really, we just have to jump in with them. That's how I feel about it. Telling him not to say it and telling his fans not to say it is futile these days because of what social media is like. It used to be that you could only say it at home anyway.
What does that look like jumping in?
A lot of arguing, a lot of exclaiming and explaining things that we thought we didn't need to explain. How many women enjoy being beaten up? What's he talking about? What's his evidence? That sort of thing. Just stop thinking that there are certain things that aren't allowed to be said, because that's not going to work anymore. We have social media. The idea is, what do you do with those things when they are said?
I have a misgiving, man. It's like you give more credence and standing to this guy and what he's saying by rebutting him. I mean, imagine, no, it's not true that most women want to be raped. We're going to have that argument? No, it's not true that Jim Crow is irrelevancy in the context of contemplating the history of American society. We're really going to argue with him? With him? It's not as if he's a rocket scientist. He's an obvious provocateur. He wants that argument, doesn't he?
Sure, but is it really possible that our enlightened American folk can ignore him? Stop thinking of it as such a big deal? I mean, to be perfectly honest, when I see someone like him, whoever's platforming him, I think there's a lot more to life than that performer. I don't care. Frankly, let him say it. I've got a book to read. But I get the feeling that that's considered a little irresponsible or peculiar or snooty or something like that, that there has to be the outrage, the op-ed page outrage, the shaking your head over the glass of wine and, saying that there's something wrong, that things have gotten so nasty. But with social media, how can they not be? I mean, we have to accept that as a norm at this point. What do you think? Can you ignore him?
I'm trying. When I was confronted with Nick Fuentes' outrage, my reaction was, who would take him seriously? He's obviously a cartoon. He's an exaggerated, vituperative, hyperbolic screech into the dark on coming from a corner of the society, which is, okay, you want to call them racist? I'm not going to argue with you. You want to call them homophobic? I don't know. They probably are. You want to call them sexist? Well, that's pretty clear. You want to call them fascist? That might be a little premature, but maybe only just a little. Who could take them seriously? Are they getting elected to Congress? Are they running a foundation? Are they publishing a newspaper? They have always been there. I agree. Social media changes the technology of communication in a profound way and gives voice to every little person with with an internet connection. He has a following, and I think, you said Tucker boosted him or something. I don't think that about Tucker. I don't think Tucker agrees with this. I think Tucker's take him at his word. He's saying this guy has a huge following. You'd better figure out what he's saying and figure out why it's so popular. Otherwise, you're out of touch with what's going on around you. I agree with that. The platforming thing, I mean, how many, he's got millions tuning in. How you going to deplatform him? Well, now you're into censorship, and I don't think you want to go there. So, but while I quietly call him a clown, a buffoon, and a cartoon, his following swells, and the Overton window opens to admit rhetoric that heretofore had been, by consensus, foreclosed. The people who engaged in that rhetoric were presumptively excluded from decency, and nobody would repeat anything that they said. And that seems to be slipping away from us. And I appreciate the concern. I really do.
Overton window, yeah.
But I don't know what to do about it. I mean, I don't know if going toe-to-toe with somebody who says Jim Crow is who cares. Well, obviously you don't care, and I don't have time to try to persuade you to care.
You're moving me, actually, as I think about this. I think the way I really feel is that it's not superior of me to look down on him, if that makes any sense. I think because the Overton window is such as it is, we need to just accept that people are going to give voice to those sorts of arguments. what Archie Bunker thought. Now, people are going to talk that way, and just get on with it. Just stop pretending that the expression of those things is a catastrophe for society. I don't think the expression of those things is going to make it any more or less likely that a white person kills a black person, and so on and so on. Some people just talk shit, and some of them are very influential, and some of them are, in the formal sense, very good at it. Maybe that's the answer to all of this, just to stop clutching the pearls and just allow that with social media, the idea that you can tell people not to say something and therefore it's gone because they can only say it in their kitchen or around the water cooler, that's over. Everybody has a pulpit. And, if it's on, even if it's only comment sections or Twitter, everybody has a pulpit. So this is just the way it's going to be.
I don't know. I'm having a thought here, and the thought actually disturbs me. I don't know if I want to share it. I mean, the thought is, okay, what does he really mean? What's really going on when he says, who cares about Jim Crow? He says, I'm tired of you niggas complaining about shit. I don't want to hear it. You've been grinding that axe for 75 years, and I'm tired of hearing it. We're in the 21st century. I'm sleeping in my mother's basement. I can't get any, from the girls. I'm frustrated because I didn't get promoted. I'm not going to an Ivy League institution. I'm not on Wall Street, whatever. I'm angry. I'm bored. And you Negroes running around talking about, meanwhile, you're setting people on fire. You're shooting people up when they come out to the park to, light the Christmas tree. Yeah, this is Chicago in recent news, but
that really happened.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, they were shooting people downtown Chicago out in front of the hotels and stuff like that, where these teen takeover. I mean, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a real phenomenon going on.
Teen is always black these days,
and it's black people doing it, and I'm moving out of the city because I don't want to get messed over by you people, quote unquote. And the thought I'm having is, if you don't address that, you don't want them to talk like that. You need to acknowledge that the stuff that is riling them is real stuff, that they have a legitimate right to be riled about, and that you are on their side of that argument rather than waving the bloody shirt of Jim Crow and saying it's structural racism. That was the thought I had, and I confessed to the thought, even though I don't think it's the right way of trying to respond to the reality of racism in the person of Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, I mean, I think a woman would justifiably say that.
By the way, that was the Chicago Theater. It's right in the heart of the Loop in downtown Chicago. And these are scenes from the police responding to the carnage that ensued. I think a teenage person was shot and killed in the exchange. I don't have all the facts in front of me. Oh yeah, 9 shot, 1 fatally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just saying, if you don't acknowledge that that's, as Mayor Brandon Johnson has acknowledged, that that's unacceptable for his city and whatnot. Of course, what else could he say? But the people who are reacting to that by saying, I don't want to be around those people, are you can understand why they might react that way, even if they don't say it out loud. And keeping them, by the way, from saying it out loud doesn't keep them from having that reaction.
I mean, yeah, it almost, and I mean, that would be a harder argument to make about what he's saying about women, I'm guessing. Wouldn't be that the women need to admit that there's a basis in truth in some of that. But with that, I would not say that that's something women are responsible for. But when it comes to the race issue, yeah. But with the race issue, yeah, exactly. I mean, frankly, you open the paper, so to speak, every day, and it's a euphemism now. Teen, 3 teens arrested for kicking the shit out of some innocent old woman. And you don't even need to look these days. The teens are always black. And I'm saying always because I genuinely cannot think of a time, at least in my recent memory, when the teens were 3 white guys. They're black guys. Maybe there's a Latino among them, usually not. there's something wrong. And it's not that there's something wrong with blackness, but there is something wrong with urban teen culture, that things like that are normal. And if somebody digs up one example of 3 really nasty white kids, that's exactly what they were, exceptions. The teen is always black. And yeah, what is that? And who are we to tell people like Fuentes and all the people who, jump up and, cheer for him and say similar stuff in the comment sections? Are we really going to tell them, no, you have to be polite? You can't talk about that. You can't say it. You have to understand, and you have to just be quiet. How realistic is that? Especially
unrealistic, completely unrealistic. He's going to say, go to hell.
Yeah. And so that is part of it. Some of the stuff that he's saying might have basis in truth, but then a lot of it doesn't. And one way to get rid of him is to stop paying him so much attention. That would just, limit his influence to a certain extent. And that goes for anybody like him.
Do you think Trump has opened the door to this with his own rhetoric? Do you think that the president has, in a way, encouraged this kind of degradation of the public discourse with his own flouting of convention and decorum and so on?
Probably. Although I wouldn't be surprised if we still saw a major uptick in anti-PC, anti-woke coarseness in our media now, even if the president was Mitt Romney, because of just the nature of these media and the fact that everybody has a pulpit and that very few people are perfect. But no, Trump certainly doesn't hurt. I mean, sorry, Trump does not help in this, because he is one of these people, and he does it with impunity because, frankly, what are you going to do? What can you do given our current conditions? And so here we are.
We got a clip of Trump telling a reporter that she was a terrible reporter. Another reporter calling her piggy. And you want to play that, Nikita?
I've seen his emails that you said you knew about the girls.
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago.
Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go
nothing
ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir,
Venezuela,
why
sir.
not why are you not saying it's
Quiet.
Venezuela.
Quiet, piggy.
Because he can. And, as always, he's giving into his id. He's, as always, doing what's easy. But because he can. That's the way it is now. Dwight D. Eisenhower would never have called anybody piggy in public, nor would Barack Obama have. But we live in these times, and there you go.
Now, Dwight Eisenhower, neither he nor Barack Obama would have to deal with South Park parodies in which your president is being depicted as a guy with a little penis in love with the devil, who is having his child, by the way. Trump might respond, it's a shit show. I didn't start it, et cetera. And then he would say, I'm just giving as good as I get.
Yeah, it is partly coming from both sides. It's partly really just that the culture started letting it all hang out more in the late 1960s. And, to keep things fresh, you have to add another exclamation point. And so here we are, 60 years after the late 1960s. And it's at the point where to get the jump, you have to do more than just wear sloppy clothes or, make a reference to group sex or something like that. And it's almost predictable that you would get to the point where this coarseness that would be unrecognizable to say Maude, remember the sitcom with
I remember Maude.
That Maude was practically a real person. Bella Abzug would not recognize this at all. And yet, you always have to keep it fresh. And social media means everybody can talk to everybody. This is inevitable at this point. That's why I say that even without Trump, we'd still be appalled at the way people talk about things. J.D. Vance accusing Haitian immigrants of eating pets. It's one thing to say that they eat dogs, but that they're taking people's pets and eating them. That is absolutely, that is repulsive. And that would have been unthinkable, before about 4 years ago. But here we are, especially in such a public circumstance.
Yeah, I agree. but I want to emphasize the fact that the degradation has gone in both directions. That is, you have a guy in the Oval Office who is unique historically in terms of how he conducts himself in public from that office. And you have a contempt and a kind of personal assault on the person in the office, that is Donald J. Trump, but also on the office itself, it seems to me, by people who, feel free to show the contempt for the person who occupies the office without restraint, if that makes any sense. Let's play a clip of Hillary Clinton saying what she wishes for with respect to Donald J. Trump.
You know what this reminds me of is I wish that there could be like a huge national sound system. And we would all wake up and they'd say, attention, attention, we have found the problem and we have solved it. He is gone. But the reason we're here tonight is to remind all of us, including ourselves, that that can't happen unless we make it happen. And
I'm sure you kind of share some common ground with the former First Lady and Secretary of State in that wish. But it's pretty rough, isn't it?
No, she's absolutely right. It's funny, that clip shows what I'm told is the real her. When she's not as stiff as she often felt she had to be on the trail because of stereotypes about how women are supposed to behave, etc. Apparently that's the way she really is, and she should be the president, or she should have been the president by all rights, I think. Yes.
You're not saying that the election of 2016 was stolen.
No,
and you wish it had a different outcome.
It's so sad that a certain few chance things made it so that she didn't win, because she would have been a normal president of the United States. But
Bush, Clinton. That's the world you want to live in.
It would be better than the person we have now in office, selling out Ukraine, calling somebody piggy, and that's within the same week, and denying how well he knew Epstein until evidence came out that he knew him quite well. I doubt if he had much to do with little girls, if at all, but he would have you think that he had never had anything major to do with him, or saying that he doesn't doodle, and then it turns out that he's actually a compulsive doodler. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. He shouldn't be president. So yes, I agree with her. Every day I think to myself, I just wish that somehow he could be overthrown, or that I wish there was something he could do that would make it so that the 25th Amendment would come into play. I think about that every day. But it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. And meanwhile, the world moves on, and selling out Ukraine, I don't know. You really want to debate that? I mean, that war is lost on the ground. It's a killing field. Selling out Ukraine,
but
there's an argument on the other side of that.
Have you seen that 28-point deal? Where basically
I've seen it talked about. I haven't reviewed it.
Russia is being allowed to take advantage of what Putin did. This barbaric.
Well, I mean, compared to what? You can't roll them back. You don't have the forces to do that.
But
you're acknowledging reality. I mean, that's not selling out. Acknowledging reality and stopping carnage is not selling out. I mean, compared to what? Compared to what?
This agreement.
The last Ukrainian.
It gives them territory that the Russians haven't even conquered. It sanctions Crimea being taken by Russia as part of itself, and it just basically says, Putin, okay, you got us, and we're just gonna, gonna essentially give it all to you, everything that you wanted or close to it. And I find that crude, and I think that a lot of it is based on the fact that Trump approves of strong men. Just like an 11-year-old has a G.I. Joe doll. I think it's crude.
Oh, come on, John. You can do better than that. To personalize this thing, I mean, to make it about his personality, these geopolitical moves, again, where serious people line up on both sides of the argument, it's not about his childhood. Somebody took his book bag. Come on, I mean,
Why give Russia this kind of sanction?
because you want to stop the killing and you realize the alternatives are grimmer still. They'll take more territory and more people will die, and you want to bring it to a conclusion. That's the argument.
I just can't see that as okay. I can't see this particular deal as necessary for that reason. I mean, to give them territory they haven't even conquered yet, that's really extreme. That's basically just saying, Ukraine, suck it up. They got you. You have no cards, as Trump said to the man in his office. You have no cards to play. As Vance sat by saying, why aren't you thankful? If you read the whole plan, you see it's more than necessary. And I think we both know that Trump has always had a rather odd fondness for Putin. And that fondness is because Putin is strong, that Trump likes that. And he wants to be liked by a strong man.
This is South Park territory, John.
Really? On just
Strong.
Oh, wait a second. He likes Putin and his fists. Is the devil really pregnant on the show now?
That's what I hear, man. I don't actually watch the show, but my wife tells me about it from time to time.
I forgot to keep up with it this season.
Yeah, I think the devil is expecting.
See, that's funny, but it's extremely crude. And yes, that is our times.
Trump and Mamdani, another topic for us to discuss. Oval Office meeting, making nice with one another.
Mm-hmm.
We got a clip or two on that one, don't we? Let's share that with the audience.
Your answer to Stephen Nelson, he asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about.
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
Now, that's pretty interesting, no?
Mm-hmm.
The guy calls him a fascist. He lets it roll off his back. He says, just say yes in response to the question.
As always, he's good at stand-up. He is funny, charming in that way, I've been told. Yeah, he's good at that. It's a lot of why he's president. Mamdani is being very practical. I admire that.
Yeah, that's the South Park.
Mamdani is basically putting pragmatism over his ideology, and I think that's a good sign. And Trump is attracted to celebrity, and Mamdani is a big star, and he's not a woman because Trump would have a harder time relating to that. But
again, this personification thing, man. I mean, I would have thought Trump is a guy who can read the political winds and sees that Mamdani's runaway victory in New York City is telling us something about the temper of the times, and is trying to find a way of making his peace with that and recalibrating his public persona in keeping with the fact that affordability is an issue and Mamdani is popular in New York. Rather than, it's a fetish. He just likes popularity and whatever. There are actual reasons, political reasons why he might make an accommodation of that sort. Not characterological reasons, but objective political calculation. You don't give him the credit to even tone down his anti-Mamdani rhetoric in the face of the political upcoming midterm elections and all these kind of things that he has to worry about.
Oh, no, Glenn, both you and I come from fields that are based on problem sets, on finding economical answers, so to speak, elegant answers, where
this isn't Occam's razor.
One factor explains everything. And of course, that's not how life always works. But for me, it always seems to with Trump. And I've said this before, and I know how bad it sounds, but I am not being rhetorical when I say you seem to be presuming that he actually reasons things out. I don't see that as a necessary assumption. You're imagining him thinking ahead and creating a strategy. I don't think he's capable of that. I think he lives from one 15-minute segment of time to another, and it's just all about him. And who
I don't know him that well, but yeah, you're right. I am presuming there's a method to his madness.
Yeah, you really do.
I am presuming that a guy with so much success in his life actually kind of knows what he's doing. He's not just stumbling. That's true. I am assuming that. And I don't know what that says about me.
I don't know what this says about me, but
well, it says you got TDS, man. That's what it says. But it's okay. You're still my friend.
I'm making an elegant argument. I'm showing that one change in a vowel explains why this, that, and the other across the sound system of the language. And with him, it's that he's 11. I don't enjoy thinking about that because this 11-year-old is running the country. I think I did see evidence of him actually thinking once the other day, though, and I had to. What was it? Where I actually thought to myself, "Wow, this doesn't fit what I thought was his pattern." He had actually. You'll have to come back to me, but there was evidence on some policy that he had actually thought about something, and I thought that's unusual because I can't fit that into my schema. He couldn't have come up with that without thinking. So unless somebody else came up with it for him, I'll admit I saw one example of that about a week ago. I can't think of what it was, but I was open. I realized, wait a minute, that it seems like he actually put A and B together, but that was the only time. And so I can't help thinking it's the exception that proves the rule. I really will try to think of what it was.
Did you see, just one more item from the news, the video posted by 6 Democratic members of Congress, Senator Slotkin from Michigan and Senator Kelly from Arizona, and 4 members of the House, calling on military personnel to be mindful of the fact that they're not obligated to obey illegal orders, and the reaction of the president to that. I
did. It was an 11-year-old's reaction, i.e., shoot them. Shoot them. It's seditious behavior. They would have been hanged in Revolutionary War America.
Punishable by death.
That's an 11-year-old. Very.
I grant that it's hyperbolic. I would say that it's an overstatement. To hang them, George Washington would. I'm not going to defend that kind of rhetoric coming out of the Oval Office, since it invites people to carry out those acts, doesn't it?
But what he's saying implies that what he says should go, whether it's legal or not. And this is the important thing. It's one thing.
Well, he's not saying that. He's not saying that they are wrong to inform that they're inaccurate in informing the military that they're not obligated to carry out illegal orders. That's in the Military Code of Justice. Everybody knows that they're not obligated to carry out illegal orders. He's angry at the fact that they invite the military personnel to question the legality of orders received before acting on them, which makes it less likely that they'd carry out legal orders because they would get into a dispute about the legality of the order. He's saying it's sowing dissension in the ranks. You haven't specified any illegal order that I've given that you say they shouldn't obey. You're just saying, in principle, be mindful of the fact that you're not obligated to obey the president, and that's clearly subversive of the authority of the president. That's what he's saying. Now, you can argue with that, but
how are you cutting the salami so thin on this? What evidence do you have that that's what he was thinking? All of this comes within a context where he has been accused of giving illegal orders, such as shooting all these little boats coming from Venezuela and pretending that that people are selling drugs from them, or bringing drugs in and refusing to justify.
How do you know that those orders are illegal?
There is a major argument that they are.
Do you want the person receiving the order to carry out the military act questioning in real time whether or not that's in fact the case?
When it comes to things as egregious as this done over and over again, a discussion is worthwhile. And the thing is, if Trump were basically saying l'état c'est moi, if he were saying, no, what I say goes, that's the way it is. I know you don't like it, but that's the way I'm going to do it. That would be one thing. But he's implying that there's nothing even to argue about, that there's nothing radical that he's doing. And that therefore, to even say you are not obliged to fulfill illegal orders. And yes, opening up the idea that people serving under him might be more inclined to think, is this right, than they would have been under, say, President Obama. That there's something egregious about that, and they should at least metaphorically be hung from trees. You agree?
Yeah, I'm not arguing that they should be hung from trees, even
I know
metaphorically, but I am a little bit disquieted by their act of encouragement in military people to question the legality of orders that they receive. Above and beyond what they would ordinarily do in the course of carrying out their duties, as they swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. It's for courts to decide whether or not these things are legal, not for people in the line of command to be making these judgments. Again, excluding egregious cases like shoot to kill the civilians who are just peacefully protesting. Whatever.
You have to remember that this is the guy who was, being sped along in a car, and wanting, what was it? He wanted to do something reckless on January 6th. While the protesters were rioting.
I don't know about this,
frankly. And he said, and somebody said it would be illegal for you to ex President Trump. And he was in there bent over saying, I don't care, do it. This is the kind of person we're talking about, or somebody who actually thinks that the military are going to shoot at the legs of protesters during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. Can't you shoot their legs or something? There is a conversation to be had about whether you can trust this person to be acting within reasonable bounds of the assumption of legality when in his commands. But he doesn't understand that. I wouldn't expect him to. I don't care. That was the president.
Okay. I'm gonna leave it at that. Mark, we got any super chat business here at the end of the first hour?
You better believe we do.
Okay. Well, I think that's a wrap then for the Glenn Show's November 2025 Q&A with longtime conversation partner, musician, cabaret, entrepreneur, Looney Tunes collector.
Got to talk about that.
Connoisseur. And friend of mine, even though he has a very terminal case of Trump derangement syndrome, John McWhorter.
It's an honor, Glenn.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Stay with us here at glennloury.substack and the Glenn Show on YouTube because we appreciate your support and your attention, and we're doing the best we can over here. So thank you. Thanks to Mark. Thanks to Nikita. Thanks to Robert, who were in the background and helped to make the Glenn Show's live stream broadcast possible. So we're signing off.